on to our next speaker now, who is Brian Deegan, who to many needs no introduction. He is one of the UK's leading design engineers for active travel schemes, a Mancunian by birth, and now well versed in the streets of many cities across the country. Brian, what have you been up to?
Yeah, quite a lot. I was just going to see if I can share. Oh, there we go. And I will tell you in slideshow format. All right, so I was asked to bring in to come in and cheer everybody up with great things that are happening this year, because it's been a rough last 12 months. Let's not doubt about it. I started off on the front page with something that's been making me happy: the key worker corridors in Leicester, which is one of the things that I'm going to talk about. So I do a lot of work up in Greater Manchester, but I'm mainly going to show you what's happening elsewhere. Now, lots of it you might know, but there might be a few things that haven't made it onto your radar yet, and I think they should. So that's really why I'm putting. So I'm going to take you through 10 exciting things. I will say about the Leicester one, calling them key worker corridors was an absolute winner. I don't know why more people didn't do that, because you don't want to stop the key workers getting to work, do you? Anyway, but that's a last year conversation. What have we got to look forward to this year? But there has to be a few things, because if we're talking nationally, then there's no doubt about it. Greater Manchester's leading the way in many areas, and particularly the Cyclops junctions, which are starting to grow around the rest of the country as well. I was looking at one in Enfield the other day. Even on the mini Hollands, they're coming over there, because people are reaching the same conclusions that these are efficient. They work for anybody of any kind of age and skill range. Here's Cyclops 2 in Bolton. There are many more coming, but I'm sure Chris will want to tell you about that. So I won't steal too much of the great man's thunder by going on about Great Manchester too much, but these are completely magic. Another thing that's happening in Greater Manchester that's completely magic, and something that I've been working on in London for years, and I've always claimed it's the best kept secret. I did a big article with Laura Laker going on about them and all my favourites throughout the ages, like in a way that only I can go on. But yeah, this is like a parallel signalised crossing in Gilbert Road in Stockport. Now, we think this is the first of its kind, and I've been involved in most of the others. Why is it the first of its kind? Because it's an actual crossing where the cyclists are separated from the pedestrians. And now that's been done, but normally you have to call it a junction. We're treating it as a crossing. So something that looks, feels and acts like a crossing is a crossing. That's big news in higher engineering, and I think you'll agree it looks pretty special, and it's very clear who goes where and who does what. So the Bee Network in itself is like based on crossings to get you across difficult roads. That's what it's always been about from the first principles. So we're coming up with lots of different variations, but this is looking pretty good. If all we did was put these in, I'd be a happy man. So another thing you got to look forward to, and we're kind of hard at it in the region, I'm hard at it across the country as well, is taking all these temporary pop-ups and trying to cement them in somewhat, or at least use bolt down curbs where once we use cones or flexi posts. So that's happening right across the land, and there's a lot of talk about the ones that are pulled out, but it's the ones that we're keeping that I'm excited about. We've really did a bulk add to the network right across the land, and there's places that you never would have thought would have done this sort of thing, and they've all been doing it. These are the products that we're going to be using in Leicester to kind of hardwire some of the routes that were just done. They did a mile a week, and now we're going to try and cement them all in. It's going to take us slightly longer, but it's there for future reference and future generations as well. So don't get much better than that. Okay, like hot off the press from London, like Hannah's already talked about school streets, and I'll talk about it again. Now we've got like a rollout that's happening across the country. London in 12 months, 350. That's the flag's been put down. We talked about the Leeds targets, and you might want to think about in your region, in your area, how many can we get these things done. So that's the monitoring report that's just come out. You can see air pollution's reduce. 18% of parents are driving less. 81% of parents support them. I mean, I'd absolutely kill for one like where I take my kids to school. It's carnage, but Hertfordshire hasn't quite jumped onto the bandwagon yet where I live. But anyway, it's a big thing and it's coming, and hopefully we're rolling these out across the country. And it's a really good way to introduce some of the principles of low traffic neighbourhoods, because they all require filters and closing. They don't necessarily have to just be part-time. So great. What else is happening? Another one that GM's leading on. I'll stop flying the flag for them, but they are doing some pretty amazing things. And if we can get this kind of lighter zebra on side roads, we think that will be an absolute game changer in terms of like affordably altering all our side roads in the land in a cheap and effective way, and prioritizing pedestrian movements across them. Even if we're implying that priority, I think it's going to be a game changer. The rest of the world enjoys these sort of things. Why do we have to stop, look, and hope to survive at every side road that we cross? If we want more people walking, we've got to do it. And there's an added bonus that it slows cars down. Just got to be for the betterment of cyclists, who are often hooked in these kind of scenarios as well. So magic. That's a little bit of a still from the kind of simulator. I'm hoping Chris says a little bit more about that. Probably shouldn't even mention it, but you know, it's very exciting. I mentioned Leeds again. So Hannah mentioned it, and she talked about the strategy and going, yeah, it doesn't quite get there, and it doesn't quite get there, but does it get further than your area? We'll say it's got a car reduction target, and that's really what people like me are looking for. They go, wow, they've actually got a car reduction target. And we're fighting tooth and nail to get a car reduction target into Transport for London and the Mayor's transport strategy. Right, here we go. We've got Leeds has done one. You know, does it get to the point where there's going to be 50% of trips by active modes? Not quite, but a 30% reduction in car use is the least that we've got to be aiming for. And what's great about the Leeds transport strategy is to quantify the CO2 benefits from it as well. So want to see that in every transport strategy. So if there's one happening near you, you might want to start pushing on this, campaigners. Something that we worked on like a year ago now, and it was supposed to be for the mayoral elections in London. So I did this report with the London Cycling Campaign, because they're very good at talking mayors into policy. So now that I'm not in Transport for London, I thought, well, I'll help them write what I think the mayor should do. So really, we came up with these kind of 8 points, which we felt would really make inroads and like an address like the CO2 demands. Oh, sorry, my throat's gone. I told Claire before there was like a big fire next door, and I breathed in so much smoke. So if a keel over at any point, like call the police. Anyway, there's a really great report. We collected all the evidence from around the world on this, and we felt we made a really strong case. And hopefully, it's used to influence the decarbonisation plan when that comes forward. So definitely worth a look, particularly if you want to quote some stats about how much we're paying to subsidise car use and great nuggets like that. It's all in there. Another document that you might have seen that I brought out, and it's not just for London, it's for everybody, but really how to actually engage with people and talk to people, particularly around low traffic neighbourhoods, and engage them. Like Greater Manchester's led the way with the collaborative planning on the Bee Network. You know, we involve people, but there's still a lot more to be done, particularly around the low traffic neighbourhoods. And I cheekily appropriated a few theories from across the land. That's the Kubler-Ross like graph of how you deal with the stages of grief. I've cheekily compared that to how people go through the low traffic neighbourhoods of like complete denial, outrage, right through to just hang about. They're going to love it, and then they're going to demand more. And I've seen that in practically every single area that we've ever done one. And there's so many historical ones that I'm hoping Hannah can support that when she does her research on that one. So there's a step process for how you should be engaging with people. If you're not engaging with people, you know, you're not being engaged with, I should say, campaigners, then you might want to do something about it. We think that's best practice. Just rifling through these, but I want to give a little bit of time for questions, and I usually go on. Active Travel England, yeah, it's coming this year. We're told. Everybody's asking me, do you know anything? And I don't really. In fact, like the picture on the right, I just Googled Active Travel England, and the Sustrans page come up, and I'm like, oh, is it Sustrans? But I will say their Active Travel Toolkit page is definitely worth looking at. There's some great stuff on there. Again, key figures and stats and the research behind it, definitely worth looking at. And the great man on the left there saying 50% of trips are going to be done by active travel. We're definitely going to need some kind of powerful inspectorate to see that one happening, to up everybody's game and to stop things being pulled out. So it's going to be quite a year watching that one unfold. Let's look for that one. And really, I want to finish in the 10 things to look forward to with all the vehicle changes, because really everything that I do as a design engineer is to stop cars being, well, to make them less awful to human beings. And one of the greatest things ever is about to happen with intelligent speed assistance coming in on all vehicles in Europe by the end of the year, start of next year. Also comes in with automatic emergency braking and alcohol lock, so you can't drive when you're drunk. These are all like massive road safety changes. So what I will say now, like people will have to do a positive act to go beyond the speed limit. So that whole, I didn't quite realize what speed I was doing. We all do that, don't we, Your Honor? All that will be out of the window. So there's never been a better time to push for 20-mile-an-hour limits. People always used to say, well, they're not that effective anyway, and nobody follows them. But if you do have a 20-mile-an-hour limit, then your car will know about it through its GPS sensors, and all the cars in the network will. So push, push, push for 20 miles an hour everywhere that you think that a human being might be, which is everywhere, excluding the motorway. So that's my big push at the end. This stuff is going to be a complete game changer over the next 5 to 10 years. Will really help with an active travel revolution, thanks to our European friends, and make sure that you have the limits all set up ready for the human activity to take place. That's the first essential, and that's my 10, I believe. Thanks.
Brilliant, coming in perfectly on time. Thank you for that. Again, so much food for thought. The language around this is really important. As you say, key worker corridors might have saved a lot of grief during the first lockdown, and yeah, definitely the stages of grief during the LTNs. I mean, we're currently in the first throes of implementing one where I live up here in South Bury. So that's kind of a really useful psychological touchstone, I guess.